Welcome to Refactored in 365 Unlocked, where I help you get the most out of your Microsoft 365 applications. In this video, I'm going to guide you through 4 features in Microsoft Word that are all about saving you time in the creation of documents by utilizing reusable and auto-updating templates. Now, I'm sure many of you are very familiar with Microsoft Word and all of the basic features and functions within it. And if you're like me, you've created hundreds, maybe even thousands of documents over the years. And I'm sure you may have encountered times where you're creating similar types of documents over and over and over again, and you're having to put the same graphics, maybe even put some headers and footers in, and it's the same type of thing repeatedly. And so what I wanted to cover today were some tips and tricks on how to make this a little easier for you going forward. I'm going to look at things like reusable templates within Microsoft Word, where you can create a template document, save it as such, and then when you go to create a brand new one, you can just pull from that, and it allows you to use some of the repeatable content from your previous documents. I'm also going to show you how to create a table of contents. Now this is something that many people are aware of, but the table of contents is powerful if you know how to use different types of headings within your document, and it can actually auto-populate that for you going forward. And then I'm also going to incorporate 2 additional features that you may not be aware of. One is called Quick Parts, which allows you to add in document properties and fields, things like an author or a title or the date of the document that you're creating. And finally, I'm going to show you one trick that allows you to put in the Lorem ipsum filler text into your Word document, so that if you're creating this template and you want to share it with someone else and you need some filler text, there's actually a really easy method to put that in without having to put forth any major effort. So I've got a demo Word document here that I'm going to show you the finished product first, and then we can walk that back to see how it's created. I've got a cover page here that I have put in a couple of pieces of art and graphics in the top left and the top right, and you can see that in the header and footer. And then I've also got a logo that I have put in on the cover page. I have my name, which is using the author document property, and I'll show you how to put that in. And then also the date, which automatically updates whenever I open the document. And this is useful when you're creating a template and wanting to open a new document maybe a couple weeks later. This date will automatically populate without you having to put it in manually. So scrolling down, you can see my table of contents, and I have put this in to automatically update, and we're going to scroll down and see that I have sections. And this section that I typed is using a particular heading, and you can see up here, and I've got a subheading, and all of this is populating my table of contents automatically without me having to manually put this type of text in. And then I've also got what you can see is the Lorem ipsum text, which I did not type out or copy and paste. I used a simple formula. So stick around towards the end and we will cover that as part of this demo. So I have a blank document here that we're going to use to create our template, and the first thing we're going to do is create a cover page. Now there's multiple ways you can do this, but as you can see there is a way to do it built in where it's got lots of templates and other types of cover pages which you can add, and there's plenty of more to browse on office.com. So you can add in any of these that you want. You click on them, it'll open that up. What I'm going to do though is create my own. So I'm going to add in some graphics for the header and the footer. And the first thing I want to do is make sure that this different first page is checked, because I don't want the same type of graphics on every other page. I just want it on my cover page. So I'm going to paste in some graphics that I have already made. And we can see I'm going to put these in the top right and the bottom left. So I've got my graphics now for the cover page. Next, I'm going to add our logo. I'm going to put that here. Of course, you could put any logo that you like. And below the logo, I'm going to type in our author and date entries. So these are going to be our placeholders for the respective pieces of data. Now I could type in my name here if I wanted to, but again, we're trying to create things a little more efficiently, and I'm going to add in a property, and that is called a quick part. So I'm going to go up to the insert menu and over to quick part. and you're going to see there's different options. One of these is a field, where I'll talk about that in a second. And this first one is a document property. So you've got a finite list of properties here that you can add into the document. And the reason you might want to use this is if you are repeatedly having to refer to one of these. So for example, if my name is used multiple times throughout the document and I want to say that I'm the author at the bottom of the page, for example, instead of having to type that over and over and over again, or if I wanted to change the author, I can use a quick part document property. So I'm going to put in author in here, and then you can see I've already got my name as a document author in this particular case. So it automatically populated it, but I could put in whatever I wanted to in this particular field. Now for the date, we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to go back into quick parts, and then I'm going to add a field. And then there is a capability to create the date or any other field that you want. So it's very similar to the quick part, the document properties. In this case though, I'm just going to add the date, and then you can add in different types of formats. So up into quick parts, into field, and I'm going to put the date right here. And every time I open this document, it is going to update for me automatically, or I can force it to go from there. So I'm going to create the font, make it a little bigger, and there we go. So this is looking good for my cover page. Now so far this is just a very simple document. This is something you probably created for yourself. What I'm going to do eventually, just to keep in mind, this is a template. I'm not going to save it as a normal Word document. I'm going to save it as a template file, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, before we do that, I'm going to create a table of contents. Now I'm going to make a page break to go down to a brand new page here, and then from here I'm going to go to references and then table of contents. And there's all different types of formats that you can apply. You can even do your own custom table of contents if you want a certain look, but I'm just going to pick the very first one. And you can see I've got a note here: creating a table of contents, start by applying a heading style from the styles gallery to the selected text. Now it's not going to show anything in the table of contents, but I'm not going to manually type this in. I'm going to automatically populate it, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. First, I'm going to go and create another page break. So I'm not touching my table of contents at all. I'm just going to go down to the next page. And I'm going to type in section 1, and we'll just call this any type of title that I want. So I've got a title and a section 1. Now I could just leave this alone, but in this case, I want this to actually show up in my table of contents, and the table of contents is generated by the styles in here, the different types of headings and ways to look at text. By default, the table of contents is going to show your heading 1, and you can see that when I hover over this heading text, and heading 2. So I'm going to make this heading 1, and I'm going to put that here, and you can see now if I go up into the table of contents and I click on it and I click update table, there we go. It's automatically put in my section 1 title with the page number that I want. So now I'm going to create a subtitle. So we're just going to call this subheading, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, but this time I'm going to call this heading 2. So heading 1, heading 2. And I'm going to go back up to my table of contents and update the table. So now it has put in subheading and the same page, and I've done this automatically. So you can rinse and repeat this multiple times. I'm going to copy and paste and just pretend that we are creating multiple sections, and I'll put in a few more, and we'll call this section 2 and then section 3. And just for the sake of the demo, I'll put these on different pages. And so we'll have section 1 and 2 on page 3 and section 3 on page 4. So now if I go in and hit update, and you can now see that I have all of this done, has the page numbers and the subheadings, etc. And the other nice thing is that I can go in if I actually wanted to title these specifically. Maybe I wanted to call this Microsoft 365 Overview, and then my subheading would be productivity solutions, for example. And I wanted to change this mid-document. Well, I can just go back up here, hit update table, and now I have appropriate titles in my table of contents. You can start to imagine how this is being put together as a template. I've got a table of contents, I've got placeholders, I've got a cover page, and then we'll save this here eventually as a template. But before I do that, I'm going to put in some text. Now, I could type in things like placeholder or put text here. If I wanted to give this to someone else, I just wanted to let them know this is where the types of content needs to go. But instead of doing that, I'm going to show you a little trick. If you do equal Lorem and then open and closed parenthesis. So this is the code that I'm going to put in, and all I'm going to do is hit enter, and here you go. It puts in the Lorem ipsum standard filler text and puts that all here, and I can copy and paste that, or I can go down and just type this again if I feel like it. I can also highlight certain sections and maybe even make these bullets if I wanted to do that. So it really just puts in some extra text. Why you would want to use this? Well, if you have a document that you want to have certain aspects to be shared with other people, so just to let them know this is what is intended to go here. There's some text, there's some bullets, etc. It's a great way to put that in very, very quickly. So at this point, maybe I'm ready to save this as a template. I want to use this on future documentation going forward. I like the organization. I like the sections that I've divided up in. It has a table of contents. I have a cover page and some graphics. So these are things I want to use going forward in this particular demo. But what I'm going to do now is save this as a template file. And there's a difference if I just went in and saved this as a normal document, a .docx. Anytime I make a change, it's going to automatically save that unless I turn off the autosave feature. But in my experience, what I have done in the past, if I've saved it like a docx file and then wanted to use that in a new scenario, I've had to make a copy of that document, but there's inevitably been times where I have copied that document and then forgotten that it is my template, and I've made changes to the template, and then here we go, we have this problem. So what I'm going to show you now is how to make this a template file. So take note that the autosave feature is on because this is a docx file, and what we're going to do is save a copy. Now yours may be a little different depending on where you are starting from, but essentially you are doing a save as, and for the purposes of this demo it's already been saved. But I've got a docx file, and I'm going to change this to Word template, or a .x, not docx but .x. And so I'm going to save that. And after it's saved, you're going to notice that the autosave feature is now turned off. So anytime I want to make changes to this, I can make changes to the template itself if I want to, but I have to actively turn this back on and hit save on my template. So to wrap things up, I just want to show one thing that's really important when you're creating these template files, and that is to ensure that you have them in the right place. So when you go to open a brand new document, and you go to the File menu and down to your Options tab. And there within this, in the menu on the Save menu item, you're going to see that there are default locations, default file locations, default personal templates location right here. Now when I went into this to start, this was blank. It had no templates in it whatsoever. So you're going to want to fill in a location here that has custom office templates in the title. And the reason that's important is because that's where your template is going to be stored, but more importantly, that is how Word is going to see that you actually have a template to pull from. If you don't have that menu item filled out with the appropriate file location, you will not see this template demo. You won't see this personal between Office and Personal. You won't see this here where you can pull your template file from. But assuming you have that set up, you can go and click on the template demo, whether it's in Personal or up here from the recent. I'm going to click on template demo, and then as you can see, this is pulling up a brand new file. It is not saved it yet. It is not saving over the top of my template file that I created, but now I can go in and save this as a brand new document while keeping my template file intact.